Hello, Internet world. This is the Bearded Bible Thinker podcast here, and I'm Rob, the Bearded Bible Thinker. I had a conversation with Tanner and Marshall not too long ago. These are a couple of other elders at our church, and we talked about Christianity and politics and some of the things to consider as we're all walking through this time in our nation together. So I hope that you enjoy this conversation, and we'll pick up next time.
It's much more outward. Maybe, you're looking at right now, you watch the news, you see a lot more things happening outwardly. But that's not to say that that was never going on inside people's hearts and just coming out in different ways. And I think when it happens outwardly like this, the stupidity of all these ideologies are shown. So what the things that can be shaken will be, I think that's also a way that God shows just how stupid it is to not trust him, to not put yourself underneath his standard, to not submit to him in your thinking, in your ideologies, because these are the results of them carried out. It took a long time, but these are the results of all these things carried out, and this is when it's all crumbling in their faces.
Well, that doesn't sound very inclusive of you. So we just had a massive test in our ability to podcast because I just dumped my drink all over my desk and nothing fried, and maybe it is the end times.
Yeah.
I'm going to take that as a sign.
Okay.
I could see and sympathize with someone who really doesn't know better, who knows a little bit of, just what they've heard in some sermons or whatever, who hasn't really studied Scripture in any sort of depth, but maybe who has just listened to other people who study Scripture. I could sympathize with someone looking at the world right now, and being like, really though? Like, it seems pretty bad.
Yeah.
And so, okay, man, I didn't plan on getting into eschatology at all.
Hey, you just started it right away.
Yeah.
I know.
Right at the beginning.
Dang.
Man, I should have brought that up.
But every one of the traditional views of eschatology has an apostasy at the end.
Yeah.
Right at the very end, like just before he's back, and so I think if you're going to read into things at all, maybe it's healthy to go, I don't know, maybe we should be ready, right?
Yeah,
Exactly.
exactly.
look at all the stuff going on. I think that's okay to tell people, look at the world. Right. But here's the thing, whether he comes back in 6 months, because look at all the stuff that's going on. So he comes back in 6 months, or whether World War III starts in 8 months and you die from it. Right. Either way, ready is what you should be.
Yeah. Well, that's a good point too, because, you think about each one of us, none of us are probably going to live more than if we're really unlucky, like 80 years, 80 more years.
Mm-hmm.
So maximum, you got 80 years before you see Christ.
Yeah.
So you do have that going for you. There's not a...
Yay.
You should be ready to that extent. Minimum 80 years.
Well, something to talk with Dad about, and this is, and my premillennials are probably going to hate me on this, is because you say be ready, but I think that's something we also have to keep in mind is not also do we have to be ready, but we also have to be preparing for the future. And I think that's where a lot of youth or young Christians get left out, is because the family or the parents or grandparents, whatever, were so focused on being ready for that coming that they never prepared their family or their kids to deal with the future that was coming, because they were ready. They were,
Yeah.
So I think that's the downfall of over focusing on being ready, is you don't look towards the future.
Right. Yeah, you should be ready for it to be a long time too, because you wouldn't want to waste today not preparing for tomorrow if there's going to be a tomorrow, because you don't know.
Yeah, I think be ready is what has to have a definition.
Yeah.
Right. When we think about it, when we read in like Matthew 25, for instance, right, which is a whole bunch of be ready, right? Mm-hmm. When we read in texts like that, and there's no question that we should be living in light of an imminent return of Christ.
Yeah.
We should be living intentionally.
Right. Mm-hmm. What does ready look like? Well, I think be ready. Like, so sometimes when people say that, I think that what is in their mind is, okay, looking out their window, in their Bible, praying, reading, just waiting. Oh, was that a trumpet? Oh, no.
Yeah.
Just a tornado warning. And we forget, I think, that be ready really just means be about your Father's business. Mm-hmm. Be being a Christian when he shows up. Like that I think is the idea of the thing.
Yeah.
So be ready. It does have to have a definition, I think, because people read different things with that phrase.
Yeah.
But
well, and Jesus said, blessed is the slave who his master finds him doing when he returns. So you wouldn't want to only plan for, like a 10-year span or only your lifetime span, and then have wasted your time, because that wouldn't be being ready when he returns. Mm-hmm. If you just focused on today but not tomorrow, then you wouldn't be ready tomorrow. You'd only be ready today. So, yep.
So we should be ready. That's where we're at.
Yep.
All right. Okay. So big guiding question that I started with is what's going on here, right? Is there, I think one of the things that you often hear, probably in every lifetime, somehow, as you look at some circumstance or something that's happened in culture or whatever, is, boy, it's never been like this. Or have things ever been this bad?
I firmly believe history repeats itself. So it might not have been this bad in our lifetime or maybe our parents, but it has been this bad. Kind of like what we were talking about when people say times are so bad. They're not as bad as the 1st and 2nd century Christians dealt with. Granted, the world is getting more ungodly and more worldly, but we're not being thrown to the lions for our faith. Granted, there is persecution in different parts of the world, mm-hmm. but as a whole,
Yeah, I was thinking about, like there definitely are times
mm-hmm.
that you can point back to in history and go, yeah, it was worse.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Right. So right now we're sitting in a church. The only reason the doors are closed is because we're recording. Mm-hmm. We're not trying to keep police from stopping us. We're pretty free to do mm-hmm. what we're doing right now. It's going to post. I mean, I suppose depending on what we talk about with politics, there could be strikes against it or whatever with YouTube or something like that. Mm-hmm. But for the most part, pretty free to do to do this Jesus thing here, right? However, I think even now there are brothers and sisters in the world who, what we're seeing, like in let's say Paris or and persecution, the little baby tastes of persecution that we see or whatever. There are brothers and sisters in the world that are like living under the iceberg that we're seeing the tip of finally. Yeah. Right. That like there are brothers and sisters in the world, particularly in China. That's right. I said it. who and many other places, frankly, right?
Yeah.
Like North Korea would be the same way. Like people who just blatantly are the legit persecuting Christians, like first century persecuting Christians. There are places in the world that are like that. So I think one of the mistakes that we can make in our nation, because this is what we know, one of the mistakes we can make is thinking that, oh, wow, it's getting bad here. So well, it's getting bad.
Yeah.
But it's been bad.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like
right.
for so many people. And depending on where you are, you know, there's who says that that in the plans of God, that in 70 years, China will be super free and Christians can come and go as they please and proclaim Christ while we're over here getting slaughtered. Like this is what it means
Right.
for the king's heart to be like streams of water in the hand of God. He does what he wants. And nothing is above him or beyond him or any of those things. And so for me, I think that I don't think the world is getting more evil at all. I think that some of the camouflage that
Yeah.
some folks have been wearing,
coming
they're
out.
taking their camo off a little bit, right? Like I think that's going on. But as far as I think that's important. It's been important for me, I think, to remember, right? As I'm looking around at all of this stuff, is that this isn't new.
Yeah. Well, yeah, I just was thinking of like Genesis 6, right before the flood. It says, all the thoughts of intentions of man were only evil continuously.
Yeah.
And it's been that way the whole time. They've all been only evil continuously, apart
Yeah.
from the grace of God. So, yeah, this is what you would expect God-hating people to do, actually. You could even expect them to do worse.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. What would be weird? What would be weird is if the Paris Olympics, displayed an empty tomb or something,
Yeah,
something
right.
like that. That would be weird. What we've been watching shouldn't surprise us.